Yeah, I know these gentlemen a little bit better than, unfortunately, than Annie does. The one on my farthest right is Colonel Jack Layton. He was one of the CIA pilots that was, I didn't talk about the sheep dipping, the process they went through. The CIA pilots were all Air Force pilots that the CIA, through a very intense screening process, and I'll let him tell more about that, but they were finally selected. At the time, they probably thought they were being selected to be astronauts. They sent them to the Lovelace Clinic in Albuquerque, where they probed them and all the good stuff they did to the astronauts. They went through a lot more things like that than we did, the testing and all that they did to them. But anyway, they stayed CIA pilots until the end of the program, and then the Air Force rescinded their resignations as though they never happened, and they continued on with their military careers, and all of them ended up with very distinguished careers in the Air Force. I hate to say that. I'm an Army guy, by the way, as it was told earlier, but they did have very good careers, and they're real proud to be associated with it. But that is Jack Layton. My good friend here on my right is Sam Pizzo. Sam, as I said earlier, he was a mission planner. He was a navigator. Of course, with the one-seater, you don't really need a navigator because the pilot don't really hesitate to have anyone sitting on his lap. So Sam's job was mission planning. But I got to tell you that Sam was more than that. Sam, after he left the area and went on with his career, I think he went up to SAC headquarters for a while, but he ended up being the navigator for Khrushchev. When Khrushchev started flying into the United States, we would not let him into United States airspace without an American navigator. So my friend Sam was the navigator. Fred White, he was a good Lockheed boy. Fred and General Hopp, I'll combine them on this, they wrote the books on the A-12. Mind you, when we started flying the A-12, no one had ever flown a Mark III plane before, and very few have since. This plane still holds all the records. But they wrote the books on them. So the guys go up there, and this is the same with the early U-2 guys. They'd never flown these things before, so they come out back, they land, and they said, "Man, don't try this; it'll get you killed." And it's these guys' job to get this into the books. And as I said earlier, we lost 20% of our pilots. 2 of them were chase pilots, and 2 of them were project pilots. Whereas the Air Force never lost a single pilot in the SR-71. We took all the heat. We learned it. We wrote the book for the SR-71. They may not admit that. And one major distinction that I did not make, the A-12 was flown solely by the CIA. The Air Force never officially flew it, operational. Everybody flew the trainer. We had a trainer. Whereas the CIA never flew the SR-71. Every now and then you'll hear someone bragging, "I worked for the CIA flying the SR-71. You can say he's a flake because it didn't happen. That was the Air Force plane. So Fred wrote the book. He was, and he can tell about his other jobs. Ray Hopp, he was the instructor pilot. He was a U-2 pilot before he became a A-12 pilot, and then he went on to become an SR-71 pilot. So he's flown just about everything. But Ray Hopp was instrumental in training. He actually trained the CIA pilots. The Lockheed pilots, you might say, trained him, and then he turned around and trained the CIA pilots. That's the way it usually works, because he was Air Force. But I'll let Ray talk about that. He can do the talking on that. But anyway, that's our panel.